Two contexts I'll just mention. In this year's budget speech, Honorable Finance Minister mentioned about AI, and she said that it's the time to make AI in India and make AI work for India. And she also announced setting up of 3 centers for excellence in artificial intelligence in the field of healthcare, agriculture, and sustainable cities. So while we are working on several solutions, of course, Bhashini is a classic example wherein we are trying to build a solution which will enable access to information, access to services, to all Indians in all Indian languages, and more importantly, voice. Because once we are enabling voice-enabled services, then the remaining 500 million people in India who don't have access to internet and who don't have access to services can also get onboarded, and that would actually mean true benefit of the DPIs that we have built in. In the budget webinar, Honorable Prime Minister, which he addressed, he also asked us to identify 10 solutions, 10 societal solutions for which we can build AI-based solutions. There have been several examples with regard to how AI can be used to give advisories to farmers, what crop to sow, how much water to use, what inputs to put, where to sell. So all this based on data analytics from the data that's available from the weather department, IMD's data, or the soil health card data, or the moisture content through sensors that's available in fields, this information can be made available. We have seen solutions wherein breast cancer is being diagnosed, skin cancer is being diagnosed, tuberculosis, diabetic retinopathy, there have been several solutions. But what we need to do is to think of how these pilots, how these proof of concepts, which have been developed by several researchers, academicians, startups, can be scaled up. Can we deploy it on scale across India? Because in India, we have that advantage of the numbers that we have, and the data that will emanate from such large-scale deployment will further help refine these models, and we ensure that we are truly able to benefit from that. But yes, that will require, like when Jugalbandi, I saw Jugalbandi and the kind of solution it was integrated with the ChatGPT. My immediate question to Vivek was how much compute it will require if we have to actually scale up and ensure that we don't end up in giving solutions which are wrong. We'll need to invest in compute, we'll need to invest in research, we need to invest in people like Naman Bajaj, who is here today, who are fired up for the school level and try to ensure that they get the necessary tools, they get the necessary mentorship, they get the necessary kind of guidance to build solutions. What can we do for adding this, for building these solutions for public service delivery? As Pramod mentioned, the DPIs have become the flavor of the season, and everybody at the G20 meeting was talking about DPIs. But having built that and having built the basic building blocks of Aadhaar, UPI, DigiLocker, consent framework, what can we do next with the kind of data that we have, the kind of data that we have from the PDS system, the kind of data that we have from the Banrega systems, the kind of data that we have from the Ayushman Bharat system? Can we integrate this data and think of going to a regime wherein we can do predictive service delivery? Why should a citizen need to prove who he is, where he is from again and again to a public authority? If these data can be synthesized, and if we know that somebody is doing 100 days of wage labor in the rural area and is also a ration card beneficiary, should he not be automatically get a Ayushman Bharat health card? He should not be able to apply. So predictive models can be built up, very simple, not very high-end algorithms, but it will transform the lives of millions of citizens across the country. We need to invest in that, we need to think of that, and that will be our next level of AI solutions that we are building in. Very often we also hear, like already it's like ChatGPT and generative AI has been like there in the news for the last 3-4 months, and already we are getting parliament questions. What impact AI will have, what impact generative technologies will have with regard to jobs in India? Will it result in unemployment? Will it result in our software sector losing the advantage that we have? And when we look at that, that's the standard response. If you look historically, any new technology coming in, always we respond like that. Will it mean end of the world? Like I remember as a child when my father used to work for a bank computerization was happening, and bank unions were at a strike because they felt that the banks will shut down and people will lose jobs. But bank computerization ensured that banking, financial services went to the next level. Railways. Similarly, in every sector, what we have seen is that such technologies throw in immense opportunities. So same with AI, what we need to do is we need to rethink our strategy of skilling, reskilling, upskilling, trying to see how best we can leverage, and if we have to harness the data that we are generating across the country, we'll have to think of, can we think of like we are the National Program on Artificial Intelligence. There is a component of setting up data science labs in ITIs and polytechnics across the country. So what we observed in discussion in the skill ministry is that most of the ITIs and polytechnics, they are still training people to become mechanics, to become fitters, to become automobile engineers. But very often with EV and all coming in, those jobs will go extinct. So can we think of training them into data scientists? Can we think of making them into data annotators? Because if we have to build up a solution in which we have to detect diseases based on X-rays or images, then we need to annotate those images. We need to annotate those videos. We need to create that data that becomes useful for researchers and entrepreneurs. So that would create a lot of jobs. But what kind of lab should be there? For that, we need inputs, we need suggestions from researchers, from academicians, from startups. And just like our DPI that we talk of, whether it's Aadhaar, UPI, it's not an initiative purely of the government. Government has just been enabler. In fact, one classic learning from implementation of DPI is that it's a whole of India effort. It's like government being the enabler, people from the industry, Mr. Nilekani is here today who led the implementation, and bringing together a whole lot of people from industry, from startups, volunteers, everyone coming together, thinking, brainstorming, and building the solutions. And almost every single DPI that we are proud of today is a story of like that. So today, as we sit at the cusp of the AI revolution, the same model is going to work. So to that regard, this People+AI is a great initiative which will bring in everyone together and try to ensure that we are able together to make a strategy which works for India, which takes care of the issues of responsible AI. Rahul mentioned about that. The risks are there. If we don't plan it well, and if we don't plan it the Indian way, the challenges that are there in the responsible AI models of OECD or the Western world will not apply to India. Whether it's the region-wise distinctions or community-wise or caste-wise or religion-wise distinctions and biases that exist in our society, there's a risk of it being kind of seen again in the AI models that we build in. So how do we ring fence against that? How do we be aware of that? And when we do that, we'll be able to tackle that. And again, we have been talking about globalizing the APIs. Another opportunity that we have is that last year, November, we became a member of the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence when it was set up in 2020. We were one of the founding members. And for last November, we kind of put our name for being the chair of the GPAI. And we were elected the chair by getting more than 2/3 of the votes of countries, which included the most of the Western countries. And this year, November, we'll have the summit here, the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. So after the G20 euphoria is over, that will be the next big thing, the global that will happen. But it's just not having the summit, we should have something to show. So if we would have identified some solutions that we can scale up, that we can demonstrate, that we can show to the world how we have used AI for healthcare or AI for agriculture or AI for languages or AI for climate change, it will be something that we'll be proud of. So I once again congratulate People+AI for doing this. It's been a proud privilege to be here and look forward to listening to the other conversations. Thank you.